Hi, Zizaran here with another video for Crucible League, and this is going to be a more full build guide for my Champion Artillery Ballista, which is completely different than Explosive Arrow and nothing like it at all. As you can see in the background, I've been playing this for quite a while and I have a level 98 champion currently playing this, and it is very, very strong. Currently with what my gear is, and I've included my current character as well as a super min-max character in the path of building. My character right now, I'm estimating it to have like 5 million damage, but that is a very low estimate and we'll talk about that later. It currently feels more similar to what I've experienced around 13 million. Now, a big downside for the build, whenever you are sitting in like the 5 to 10 million damage vicinity, if there are multiple monsters on the screen, very, very annoying. As you can see in the background, the damage will end up like spreading out and splitting, and your full damage is, you know, it's estimating that you're hitting everything on one monster. So really, really good single target. Really, really good damage on bosses. I've done Uber Elder and everything like non-Uber bosses. So I haven't done anything like Uber Maven or anything like that, but very, very enjoying the build so far. And I have like very bare minimum gear. I have a few good pieces, but I don't have, for example, Devouring Diadem or anything like that. And as you can see, it's working really good. If you ever feel like you're not able to catch my stream because I'm streaming at bad hours for you, we're actually introducing a VOD channel. If you want to watch the full VODs and what happened at your own leisure, we got you covered. So for those that haven't used Path of Building before, this is Path of Building. I have a video on how to install it and stuff like that. This is not going to be a step-by-step or super in-depth build guide like we do for the League starters. The reason for that is this is a bit of a more advanced build, and you can't really level with this. You also can't really League start with this, and that's because you need a Crucible Tree that has, at the very least, all damage from Blast Rain and Artillery Ballista hits can poison. Now, my Crucible Tree is actually not very optimized. Other things that would be really good would be, for example, honestly, Herald of Agony buff effect could work, but the global attack speed and less global damage thing could work. I have 120 intelligence, so I don't need to worry about getting into myself. Without that, you probably would need to get intelligence on gear. Strength as well could be another one. Obviously, I have more than 100 strength, so this does nothing. And the only other thing I get is some base damage and evasion. Other than that, I have a very, very good bow. We'll talk a little bit about that. This is what I mean by that we're under calculating the damage a little bit. So currently, with my current gear, I am firing 11 arrows. I have 6 ballistas. It's very easy to get 7. You need either a +1 fire skills amulet or Awaken Ellie Focus and a level 21 gem. Then you have 7 ballistas. So at the moment, I have 6 ballistas, and I'm estimating that they're hitting with 3 arrows. They are firing 11, but that's why I'm only doing 8. But even if I was like doing that at 6 arrows you're hitting, you see, then it would be 8 million. So that's why it does feel currently like I'm on like 13 million damage. The bigger the boss is, the more arrows are going to hit, right? And against smaller enemies that are only going to get hit by a few, well, I probably don't need my full damage anyway. For crafting the bow, I did ROG. It's just pure RNG, and you do like, you know, re-roll the prefixes, try to upgrade them, and try to get multiple high elemental damage rolls. You know what? Just for fun, what I'm going to do, I don't normally do this in videos, but maybe people like it. I'll talk about how to make a really, really good bow. So we'll go to the emulator here and we'll create, because that's obviously pretty important for the build. Now this will be a very expensive bow. So let's say that I have a thicket bow. Thicket is actually nice for this over a short or a grove bow. But then let's make a fairly realistic one where I have spammed, where are essences? There. Let's say that I'm spamming Essence of Wrath until I hit a second tier 1. Now this might take some time, so what I'm going to do, unless I hit it real quick, is I'm just going to, we're just going to change it in the mod pool. This could take somewhere between 100 to 300, so it'd be a large amount. And now we're going to swap that out. So let's say that I hit that and maybe some cold damage. Let's say that I hit tier 3 cold. This would be really, really nice prefixes. Now you do an annulment and you're devastated that you hit that, but let's say that we have an open suffix, because that's what you would want. So now you're at a pretty good stage of a bow. You have tier 1 fire damage, you have a deafening lightning damage, and you have tier 3 cold. Very good prefixes. You can actually finish the bow deterministically. So what I would do now is I would do, it's a suffix craft, and I would do prefixes cannot be changed. This is where it starts getting really expensive. So this is a very expensive build at the end game. This is 2 divines, I scour, I do another 2 divines, we're now at 4, and then I do to harvest craft, and I do add remove speed. Now, this is best case scenario and ends up being really cheap. Now, the next step, which if you want to risk it and you want chance to poison, you would do prefixes cannot be changed, and now you do odd remove chaos, and you hope that it removes the prefixes cannot be changed. So here you can see that if this happens, you would basically have to start over again or do augment speed again. And these will end up being really expensive. Now, if this happens, that you're left with projectile speed, you can do it again and be guaranteed attack speed because there are only 2 speed suffixes. So it'll either remove the attack speed or it'll remove the projectile speed. If it adds the like this, now this would be very scary because it won't work at all. Because it will add first and then remove, right? So you do need to make sure that you have attack speed on its own. So basically like this, and then you hope that this happens. Now you have a perfect bow, and step by step, you can do this without breaking it. So I have -8 mana cost here and -7 here. Now it is important that it doesn't cost 0 or I would not be getting any inspiration stacks. Here I also have reduced mana cost of attacks on the helmet because I don't have a Devouring Diadem. So this is pretty important having that. It is also worth mentioning Pathfinder is very good for this build, but I'm not currently playing that. So I'm not going to make a super in-depth Pathfinder guide. I do have like a preliminary one for my other Pathfinder that's level 90. Awaken Ellie Focus would be very big. Then I would get one other totem. And you could do Deadly Ailments as well for more damage, but that will reduce the impact of the initial hit. It can be kind of annoying for clearing, but it will be more damage overall. Other than that, while we are not doing EB, I have Frenzy with Mana Forged Arrows. This is really nice because I don't have to do anything and I just keep Frenzy up all the time. I have Chaos of Taken and Val Molten Shell because we are stacking armor. So that's really good. And I do have Val Molten Shell that I press whenever I'm about to take a lot of damage. Withering Step. I don't have this on mouse button 1. It's something you should never have on mouse button 1. And I will just use it when I'm near a boss to wither the boss. And that will make it take a lot more chaos damage. So very, very important. We're using Blood and Sand at the moment. Dance of Blades. You have Onslaught if you changed stance recently. This is because I don't have Sleepless Sentries, which is what I would want to do in the endgame one. I just haven't found the cluster. So really, really do want that. But yeah, in a pinch, you can do Dance of Blades, and I have Blood and Sand. So as long as I have this clicked, always attack without moving, and I'm spam clicking mouse button 1, I have permanent onslaught on this, including in bosses. So obviously the cluster is better, but until then, you can do that. And then I like Blink Arrow as a movement ability. You don't need to do this. You could just have Flame Dash. I have Flame Dash as well. Val Haste. I don't actually use Haste, but the Val Haste is obviously just free, really good attack speed. It's even better if you are using the Wilma helmet. I just feel like that's very unnecessary, so I'm not going to use it. And then I have this Blast Rain setup, which I'll explain a little bit. It is not super necessary, and it changes in the endgame version. So at the moment, I'm using Blast Rain with Withering Touch, and then Mirage Archery, very important. So this keeps firing on my own all the time. Inspiration to make sure the mana cost is low, and then GMP and Culling Strike. Now, this is just to keep Wither up, and you can see the damage difference is I have 5 million with and 3 million without. So if I keep 15 Wither stacks up, very, very good. Temp Chains I'm currently getting from my gloves. I think I have a Despair somewhere, but this is not being used. This is not being used because it's auto casting my gloves right now, and I haven't anointed +1 curse. So let's go look at like a min-max version and what this would look like endgame. There, this is the endgame tree, this is the skills, and this is the items. See, I'm not changing the bow here. A lot of my items are fairly endgame already. Like getting a bow with so much poison chance is really good. An alternative bow would just be, for example, as high as you could on the fire, cold, and lightning damage. Ideally, triple tier 1. WoG does give that sometimes. And then high attack speed. And Quiver here, honestly, I'm just spamming, screaming, shrieking, or deafening Essence of Woe for the increased damage with bow skills. And then +1 arrow is really good. And damage over time multiplier is really good. Flat damage is also really, really good. We are using Devouring Diadem for the endgame build. This is really important for multiple things. This lets me, I don't even need Charisma to fit things. So here I have Determination, Grace, and a Herald of Agony and an Enlighten. So this is a level 3 Enlighten, which will be upgraded to level 4. And then Divergent Herald of Agony is even more poison chance. And on top of that, on the gloves, we have Herald of Agony buff effect. With that, you're able to get rid of poison chance entirely. However, it's actually kind of nice to have one poison cluster either way, because they're two really nice poison masteries. This, recover 3% life on killing a poison enemy, actually works because when an enemy dies to poison, it counts as us killing it. Very, very good for clearing. And poisons you inflict deal 20% faster damage. It feels really good as well. It's technically not more damage, but it does feel like more damage. But you can definitely remove that entirely. Another thing that's really, really easy to remove for points is Master Fletcher and Multi-Shot. They're sort of the least important things. Do make sure, however, that you have Deadly Draw, because Bow Mastery, 20% AoE, will not show up, like I said, in your DPS, but AoE is very important for this build. That makes Dying Sun super good as well, especially a max roll one. This is obviously even better for Pathfinder, so you'll get even more AoE, but very, very good. Would recommend. You are using Devouring Diadem, so you are going to have to balance if you're using Evasion ES or Armor ES gear. Obviously, Armor Evasion is better because high Armor and high Evasion is really good, but you do want to have enough Energy Shield that the recharge rate and everything feels really good. And you can still balance with minus mana cost on skills, but if you get enough Energy Shield, you might not need that at all. I would probably recommend getting between 500 and 800 Energy Shield for your Devouring Diadem. And then we are using the Anoint, that is very expensive, is Whispers of Doom for +1 curse. And you can see how important this is here. Look at my damage goes from 29 to 17 million. So it's basically 10 million extra damage from our curse. So +1 curse is very important. We have it on Arcanist Brand so that you cast the Arcanist Brand on the boss and it keeps cursing. Wild Haste, you don't need it. We're not using a Wilma's, but I like it. It's nice. Frenzy, you are going to have to self-cast when we have EB because the Mana Forge Arrows doesn't work with EB. Very sad. You could do Withering Step, and I think there's a Divergent Withering Step that's even better. Let's see. Yeah, 2 more. So at a 21 Withering Step and 20 quality, this would be 9 Withering debuffs. And I'll show how this makes a difference. So instead of Withering Touch, you can use Awaken Vicious Projectiles, putting your damage up to 35 as long as we have 15 stacks. We are only going to have 9, however, which is still a lot of damage. But you can see that the Withering stacks are very important and does make a big difference. That's why instead I do Withering Touch instead of Awakened. That will basically make sure that it's pretty much the enemy will have full Withering stacks all the time. And the Divergent one makes it even more easy to do. The Helmet enchant that we're going to do, Artillery Ballista fires in 2 particular lines instead. This is better than 2 arrows because it'll fire in a cross. So if we look at the damage calculation here, while I was before only estimating that 3 arrows would hit, I'm now estimating that 6 will hit. And in the Endgame version, you have 7 totems. So the calculation would be 7 totems firing and hitting with 7 totems firing and hitting with 6 arrows each. We are firing with 13 arrows each, but I'm not going to calculate at 91 damage because it's very, very unlikely that everything will hit. We would hit dot cap with that. I don't think it goes above that no matter what we do. Either way, I think that's pretty much all for the build and all I could think of min-maxing it. There might be other things like trying it on a Juggernaut with a 4th Vow tech and things like that, but it's a very, very cool build that has a lot of potential. So I hope you guys like the build. Sub if you like the video, but more importantly, try to die less than I do.